We are live, sir.
Greetings to one and all. In today's rapidly evolving world, the field of management needs to constantly adapt and innovate to stay ahead of the curve. With that thought in mind, we delve into today's topic of management education, genesis and future, the latest installment of our IMT Connect series. To guide us through this journey, we are thrilled to have with us Professor Abhishek, who is a professor of marketing management at IMT Ghaziabad. He's a renowned marketing expert with over 20 years of experience straddling the realms of industry and academia. His expertise spans marketing communication, consumer behavior, retailing, and the ever evolving landscape of digital marketing and e commerce. A prolific researcher with publications in top journals, he has authored over 35 teaching cases which are widely used by institutions across India and are a testament to his dedication to shaping future generations of business leaders. As we trace the historical origins of management education, discover the evolving trends in management pedagogy, and envision the future of the curriculum, we are honored to have him share his insights with us today. With that, we welcome you to the session, sir.
Thank you, Shreya, for your kind words. Really appreciate the wonderful introduction. So today I'm really excited to be part of this session where we are going to talk about management education, genesis and future. While I have been a professor of marketing and teaching marketing has been my bread and butter, I've always been fascinated by this, that what led to this evolution of management education. And therefore, I have been reading about it from different sources, different books, different articles, different papers. But till now, I never got a chance where I could actually pull all of them together and actually explain that in the form of a story, that how the whole field of management education evolved, and also based on whatever has been happening over the last few years, especially over the time since COVID, what is going to be the probable future? And this is in this session, our idea is to actually talk about these issues. So what has been the reason for evolution of this separate discipline called management education, and probably what could be the possible ways in which this field of management education is going to evolve in future. So this is the very broad plan for this idea for this session, and I'm really very delighted to be sharing my understanding of this field. So this is probably already shared with in the some of the promotional messages. This is going to be the agenda, detailed agenda for this session. I would be first talking about the historical origins of management education. So I will take you how in a, let's say, around 150 years or so ago, how this whole field of management, what was the reason for evolution of this management education. Now, this has not been something, the field of management education has not been something which has remained unchanged over the years. There have been a number of changes, and I'm going to, the changes can be, one way of looking at the changes is to look at from the coverage of the topics, but then it becomes it becomes a very large field to cover. So what I've tried to do is that I'll be trying to talk about how the management education pedagogy has changed over the years, and in that process, also try to understand that how the evolution of management, all things have started becoming important over the years. And after we have done these two parts, then we'll get into this. What are our prediction, our understanding of what is going to happen in management education. So we start by detailing out some of the skills which have been stated as important skills that the future managers need to have. And in order to impart those skills, what are the possible pedagogy that management education need to adopt? And thereafter, I will talk about some of the domains based on my understanding, reading of different articles, trend reports published by different newspapers, different think tanks, what all are going to be the domains. And in the end, I'm going to also look at it from a wider perspective and see that if you are going to be a student of management, then what you should be looking for in terms of if you're looking for an organization or institute, which you should be looking for, that these are the things that institute is going to provide, and that would help you in probably taking a good call as you go forward. So with that perspective, let's move to the first part, and first part is historical origins. Now, historical origin is a I mean, I said that the whole genesis of management education can be traced to around 150 years back, but I would like to go a little bit more behind that. And so we all know what is industrial revolution. So we talk about industrial revolution, and so everybody knows about this whole concept of industrial revolution. Industrial revolution is something which was started in Britain in late 18th century with the use of steam engine and mass production. So we all know that these sort of factories which were established in using the steam engine, which could actually, it started with the in the textile sector, and one could actually go on to produce a lot of clothes using the factories, which actually replaced the traditional way of production of clothes. So which was earlier basically done at the individual household level, and it was more like a very small scale enterprise. So this brought about some sort of a what we call as a organization which was slightly large, much in terms of production, and therefore this was some sort of complexity were introduced in the way the whole production system was organized earlier. So from the earlier system of production in the house, where only the individual household members were involved, maybe the parents, maybe the children were all involved in the production system, or maybe some relatives, other relatives also join hands. This gave way to a system where factories were producing clothes, and factories, when factories are producing clothes, that also meant that probably a slightly larger number of people were involved, and the scale of operation became slightly larger. But even when the factory is established, it was still not as a something, not seen as a very big establishment. Now, this gave way to what is known as second industrial revolution. Now, this is something which not many people may be aware about. What is, we all in our history books, in our social sciences book, we are all talked about industrial revolution. We are not told about what is the second industrial revolution. Now, second industrial revolution is the term which was, as per my understanding, it was coined by Adam Chandler. And Adam Chandler, when we talked about second industrial revolution, spoke about a very particular phase in the history, where and he was talking about the phase starting from 1870s, and he was referring to two particular countries in particular, which is United States and Germany. So this was the period which was stated as existed between 1817 to 1914, just before the onset of World War I. And this led to rapid industrial development, and the main reason why it led to rapid industrial development was basically because of the what is called the interchangeable parts. So parts could be parts could be interchanged with each other. So earlier, the production system, when the production system used to happen, everything was handcrafted and entire thing had to be done in one go. Now, now in second industrial revolution, what happened that one part was produced in one factory, second part was produced in second factory, third part was produced in third factory, and it did not matter if you produce the entire thing in one go. It could be, all parts could be actually combined together to produce the final output. And this was something which was which started happening in United States and Germany. Now this era is known as the, and it is more commonly referred to the geography of United States, but then it also includes it also talks about the development which are happening in Germany at that time, which was also a lot of revolutionary technologies were being brought in, and a lot of innovations were happening in the field, and most important of which was the concept of interchangeable parts. In fact, the whole concept of lock, stock, and barrel comes from this whole interchangeable parts, because the guns were earlier they had to produce in one go, and the guy who produced this gun, they basically were in three parts, and one could just combine these three parts and the gun was ready. So that's how the whole concept of lock, stock, and barrel came in. Now, so this interchangeable parts actually provided what we know as economies of scale as well as economies of scope. Now, this was very important. So generally, when we talk about economies of scale means that the same. I mean, you could use a premise to produce in large quantity, and therefore your per unit cost goes out. This economies of scope means that the same premise can be used to produce multiple items. So it's not just producing one product; it can be used to produce second or third or fourth product also. So because of interchangeability of parts, that the second industrial revolution brought about the economies of scale and economies of scope. This has very important implication as we went ahead. Now, what were these implications? These implications, first of all, it was about continuous mass production. Now, in the first industrial revolution, because of non-interchangeability of parts, that continuous mass production could not happen. I mean, if it was happening, it was only limited to a certain. For example, it started with textile. It was there for textile for many years, but it was not there for every other product. Now, with these innovations, lot of products were actually it was possible to product in a continuous mass production process. Now, this mass production process was something which required a lot of rework on the way things were happening. What was the rework? Now, mass production would require that you need to employ a large number of people. You need to have so you need to have system where we could actually, how do you manage a large number of people? Okay. Now, the other thing was that it also required probably setting up a large premise, and therefore huge fixed costs were required. Now, how do you bring in huge? How do you take care of the huge fixed cost? Now, generally, the fixed cost would have to be incurred upfront before the production could start. Now, the money in US was mostly brought from Britain, but Britain was a foreign country. So how do you bring money from Britain to United States? In that case, because at that time Britain was the richest country in the world, and basically by exploiting its colonies, they were able to have a lot of money available in hand. But how do you bring that money? And therefore, that led to development of what is called the share market. So the share market, where like you had those factories which were actually one could actually buy shares, and the money was brought from the United States, from Britain to United States. So use, I mean, when you are talking about continuous mass production, it was about a large number of people. It also required huge fixed cost, and huge fixed cost required innovation in terms of the way money had to could be brought to United States. Now, when the production was happening, big amount of production was happening, then it also required that the products were so earlier production was always localized. It was only sold in the local markets. Now, what happened that when you have large production, it's not just good enough to sell in local market. You need to sell in much larger markets. Fortunately, at the same time, we had this in United States. There was nationwide distribution using railroads and telegraph system. So means of communication using telegraph system was there. Later on, it was followed up by telephones, and the way of distribution also happened. So earlier, if it's a, let's say it's a meat product, and meat product had to be sold in different parts of the country, it was just not possible to move that. But with railroads, refrigerated railroads, it was possible to move that to a different parts of the country without it being spoiled. Now, So again, this required this again, it is also linked with the high fixed costs. For high fixed were not just for the factories, but also for establishing railroads, because railroads were one of the most capital intensive industries in those days, and therefore high cost, and therefore money had to be money was required for funding the operation of railroad. So again, the money market started developing very well. Now, this with the when the product was made available in different parts of the country, but the consumers did not know about these products. They had they I mean so they had to be, so two things happened at that point of time. First of all, the large number of products started becoming available, and therefore there was no way one store could actually keep all the products in their premise, and therefore it led to development of what is called a large scale stores. And also these stores actually need to the when the products was being made available to different parts of the country, the stores needed to advertise about these products to everybody. So this led to two other implications, which is that uh, uh, mass production led to availability of large range of products in one store, and also they were advertising campaigns which were built to undertaken to build brand awareness. Now, if you look at all these things, uh, these are all basically pointing towards a system where different type of work needed to be done, which was very different from what had been happening earlier. In fact, when all these things were happening, US was also moving from agrarian economy to what we call as industrial economy. So mass production was happening, but even then, the per capita income was not very high, and therefore, in order to ensure that people went on to buy, especially consumer durable products, there was also rise of what is called the credit market, so which could actually build the purchasing power, bring the purchasing power in the hand of the customers. Now, again, all these implications, if you look at it, it's possible to relate them with one or the other fields of management. Now, when talking about mass production, how do you organize the mass production? Then it's about not just production systems, but you also need to organize the HR systems in place. Now, high fixed costs, so you need to understand the financial markets. You need to understand the how do you get the money in the finance. Nationwide distribution, so you are understanding about the logistics and the distribution cost. How do you minimize on that, so that that cost could be now you're talking about a large range of products in store or advertising. These are all marketing related aspects, that how do you take care of these. uh, Again, providing credit to you, again you build another part of the financial market. So the earlier part of financial market was looking at the businesses. Now this part is looking at the consumers. So basically, what happened was that during as all these things happened, all these implications happened, there was it was very clearly felt that the old system or processes which were actually taking care of the way traditional means of production, traditional means of distribution, traditional means of selling, which was happening, can no longer work in this new way of doing things. And therefore, it required a management structure to oversee production, and to ensure right and sufficient inputs, and to secure markets to sell the product. And that is where it was felt that probably what earlier, I mean, if you think about that, if there was no management education, what was it earlier? When there was no management education, there was this concept of apprenticeship, and which used to work out very well. But with the so even the if you talk about the stores were what these small stores are still continue we call mom and pop store in United States. And the reason they are called mom and pop store, because mom and pop used to work there, which was on the ground floor, and they used to live on the first floor. And the children also were actually full-time based there, and they saw how the parents were operating the shop, and that's how they learned the tricks of the trade. Now, this apprentice system was something which worked out very well for so many years, hundreds of years before this second industrial revolution happened. But when the second industrial revolution happened, then there was a need felt that it is no longer the old traditional way of doing things is no longer going to work, and we need to move to a new way of doing things. And that is where this understanding that really a management structure is required to oversee production and to ensure right and sufficient inputs and to secure market to sell the products. This was the genesis of management education, because if you are going to build a management structure, you're going to oversee somebody who is going to do all that. How do you train that person? Because the old system of apprenticeship does not work. And that is where the management education came in. Management education came in to fill the vacuum where people were not they were not ready, or they were not knowing how to run a modern corporation, how to run a large corporation. And that is where the management education came in. And initial concepts of management were particularly planned or detailed for running the then large organizations. For example, Standard Oil was a large organization which was into production of oil. So the how do you take care of railroad companies were the prominent employers. So shoe companies were the major production units. So how do you undertake operations and uh, take care of all the aspects as mentioned here? That is what the management education started covering. Now, this is the broad background about historical origins. I hope this gives a lot of understanding about what was the basis. Now, let's move to the second part, which is the what has been the trends in management pedagogy. Now, this trends in management pedagogy has to be seen in terms of how when it was the need was felt that there's a requirement for this management structure. Uh, and how to teach, then nobody knew what how to actually talk about, or how to cover this management to tell the new age students, or these students about how this management education has to be done. So if you don't know anything, then generally what organization do, they start following the old way of doing things. Now this is exactly what happened. Now, so first was pedagogy which was adopted in management education was the traditional pedagogy, which has been in vogue for many centuries. So lecture and recitation method. So this is what when the management field started, and this I'm talking about 1880s. There's enough literature to suggest that the earliest instances of management education were about lecture and recitation method. So instructor would come to the class, will give a lecture, and students will go back and they will read about it, or rather reread on that what the instructor said, and they will try to imbibe what the instructor has talked about in the class. That was a simple lecture and recitation method. It was that's how it started. But very soon it was felt that this was not good enough. Why it was not good enough? Because it was felt that it lacked the realism that the student should know once they go to join the factories or the companies where which are basically large corporations. Now, so that's that. So this led to or what is called as the introduction of seminars and lectures by civil servant officials and practitioners. This started happening just within 10 years or so. There was an evolution and thought process that we need to go beyond lectures. And what do you do? Remember, in those days, the government officials, civil servants, they were the ones who were the who used to constitute the a large number of professional working population. So they were the ones who were brought to talk about what problems they are facing and how are they addressing their problems. And seminars and lectures by these civil servant officials and practitioners. Practitioners were very limited. That became the second way in which the evolution of the management pedagogy. Now, while all this thing was happening, sometime and sometime around this time only, around 1890s or so, there was also talk of that how can management education have a different way of talking about management. And in those days, the Germany started the management education in Germany started by uh, following a trend where there was a dialogue between the instructor and the students. So instructor and the students would actually talk to each other, and they would try to and they would discuss and that what actually happened and why it happened. Now this whole thing was also brought in because Germany in those days was also seen as a center of learning. Many great universities started in Germany at that time, and many American professors actually American scholars actually went to Germany for higher education and came back and set up things in US. So these people actually brought those practice from Germany, and they started adopting them in law uh, teaching. And from law teaching, this practice was also brought into management education. What I'm talking about is what is called the famous case method. Now, case method became very, it became a very, very uh, m- uh, well, well, uh, uh, well accepted pedagogy from 1920s onwards, especially when 1921 when Harvard Business School wrote its first ever case called General Issue Company. Now, this case method actually was a very codified way of doing a dialogue discussion in the class. Now, a case would provide the context, and the instructor would share the case in the class in advance, and then would pose questions to the students in the class. Based on the question posed to them, the students would actually revert and they would put their point of view, and in that process there would be learning. Instructor would give his or her point of view, and then this would be critiqued and challenged by the others in the class, and that's how the learning happened. So it was not at all about what is the some conceptual explanation, but more about how a business was operating and what needs to be done, and as somebody who is going to operate the business, what are the things that you need to take care as you go ahead and take the decision. This premise of case method was based on that all of us are whoever is going to be manager is going to be a decision maker, and decision maker needs to learn about decision making and rather than anything else. The conceptual things, well, they were good, they were okay, but what was more important was the process of making decisions. So case method once it was widely adopted, and it was followed. It like it was like one of those mm, types of pedagogy which actually remained very strongly entrenched in the different B schools. So in terms of innovation later came in 1990s, and there are a couple of innovations which all both actually were brought about in 1990s. Now, one was what is called the project-based learning. Now, project-based learning was about you undertake, so the course will not be taught in a typical course manner. Now the course will be taught in the form of you have to carry out a project. So there will be a couple of sessions where you will be detailed about what this course is all about and how you are going to do it, but you will have to identify a project which you are going to undertake. And every week the instructor and the students will meet. The instructor will explain that what they have done in last 1 month, and then the instructor will explain or detail out at what needs to be done and what are whether the progress is good or bad, what is the problem, how it can be further improved. So and then by the time the term ends, there's certain learning which the students have made because they have been doing it the project over last 4 months, 4.5 months. Now that's example of what is called project-based learning that started becoming popular, started being used. I will not say the word popular, but it started being used from 1990s. The other was the use of business simulation. See, business simulation required a good processing power, and which was not available earlier. So sometime in 90s, there was enough processing power to run a software and the back and actually make use of business simulations. Now, business simulations always gave you a very good perspective about what you have done and what has been the result. So, well, the cases were are good for discussion, good for critiquing, good for arguing on, but business simulation actually provided a very good perspective on what would be the possible outcome for the decisions that you have actually made. So it went a step beyond the case method, where case method was only about that probably this is what we should do. Now this in business simulation, it was saying that, oh, this is what you have done, and now see, this is the result. So then the idea of grasping the result, understanding of the topic became much better with the use of business simulation. So these were like this is how the management pedagogy has evolved over the years, and of course changes are still happening. A lot of new things are also coming up. But while one thing I would definitely like to make a comment here is that while the old new things keep on coming, old things continue to be there. So it's not that when project-based learning come or business simulation came, case method gets eliminated or seminar and lecture gets eliminated. No, that's not going to happen. It's going to be there, and therefore as when you evaluate, look at the management pedagogy that is employed at a particular BE schools, try to see that is everything. I mean, is the education should giving a emphasis on all types of pedagogy that is being employed in the institute or not. So this is what this module is all about. Now let's move to the third module, predictions in management education. Shreya, do we need to, are there any questions? Let me know, otherwise I'll just go on.
Yes, sir, there's one question,
Yeah, please go ahead.
if you would like to take it right now.
Yeah,
So,
if it is with
sir,
first two parts, yes, that's good to have
yes, sir,
this.
yes, sir, yes, sir.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
sir, the question is that you talk about the evolution of management pedagogy, but it seems like we are following the same trends we were following back in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. So now that there's a introduction of online education platforms, how do you see it evolving further?
So online education platforms have definitely made big entry, and I'm going to talk about little later in the I mean, when I talk about the predictions, what is the role that they are going to play. When COVID happened and thereafter people moved to online platforms, there's a lot of discussion happening that probably online education is going to be there, and the old legacy universities with large campuses probably are going to become irrelevant. Our experience after COVID has shown us that it's not the case. There's a certain value that traditional universities or institutes, B schools, bring to the table, and for which they will continue to remain in prominence. And the way we thought about that, the hybrid education model will evolve. That is not something which has happened. But is there no scope for online forums? No, that's not true. There's a scope, and I'm going to talk about it in little later in the in today's session. So that would make things more clear as we go along. Okay.
Okay, so thank you for your words.
Okay. Okay. So now let's look at the predictions in management education. When we talk about these predictions in management education, I say that I'm going to talk about four things. The what is my understanding about, not my understanding, what actually people have been talking about as the skills which are going to be there in which are important to have in the future. And I'm also going to talk about the pedagogy, what pedagogy is going to be employed, widely employed, and then what are the different domains, and then overall. So let's start by talking about the skills part. Now, when we talk about the skills, in fact, when HBS, Harvard Business School, completed its 100 year in 2008, the two professors at Harvard Business School and one more colleague of them, actually Shrikant Dattar, who happens to be the current dean at HBS, and then David Garvin and a guy called Patrick Cullen. All three of them came together and wrote a book called Rethinking MBA. This Rethinking MBA actually analyzed the trends over what changes have happened at the top B schools in the world, and they analyze around eight. I think if if I remember correctly, 8 B schools in the world. And based on their discussion and analysis, they came up with what they call as these are some of the important skills that a future generation of manager need to have. Let's start with the first one. So gaining a global perspective. Now, this was seen as something that managers need to operate in a global environment. They are no longer operating in an environment which is just limited to their own country or a very small geographic area. So as a manager, how do you learn to operate in a global environment? In fact, it is said that many of the if you see around, many of the CEOs of big companies are of Indian origin. And the reason they are supposed to or they said that they work out very well is because they already have exposure of working in a big country like India, which is like mini Europe. It has a multiple language, multiple culture, and multiple ways of doing things. And therefore, if you can work in operate in that type of market, then your chances of working in a global market becomes much better. But gaining a global perspective where you are how do you take call on when you are facing a complex situation which is like different types of economic, different type of institutional, different type of cultural difference, and taking call on that, taking a decision on that becomes important. So that was one skill which Mr. Datar and Mr. Garvin actually talked about. Second was that developing leadership skill. Now, leadership as such, if you look at it, leadership as a skill is something which everybody has been talking about that. But now they'd say that the people who are going to be managers, they need to understand the responsibility of leadership. Now, there are different ways of influencing and having impact on the your subordinates, and therefore, if you really want to get the work done, then this developing leadership skill is a very important skill that you need to follow. The third was honing integration skills. Now, what happens in management education is that many of times different professors come and talk about different their own functional area. But as a manager, you are never going to take a call on using one knowledge of only one functional area. And in fact, many times the situation so emerges that a decision has to be taken after taking into consideration the view from different functional areas. Now, how do you have a skill where you can actually look at things in a more holistic, more integrated manner, and probably take a call on how do you take a decision in that context? That is what honing integration skill was all about. Now, this part, recognizing organizational reality and implementing effectively, is basically something which is understanding, looking at the things and trying to see that what are the organizational realities. Organizational reality means that any organization is like a political entity, so there will be different factions who would be pulling it in different directions. So how do you, which may not be stated very clearly, but then as a manager, how do you look at that the reality and see that what are different coalitions in, and therefore how do you deal with different coalitions to drive your decision making, which is an effective decision. So that is what this skill was all about, that you have to understand the political reality in the organization and then accordingly take a call on that. Now, the next one was thinking creatively and innovatively. Now, why it was said that thinking creatively and innovatively is because in today's time, lots of information is flowing, and therefore you have to take a call, you have to take a decision based on whatever decision, whatever information is available, because and there's never a time to collect all pieces of information or large number of information. So in that case, how do you take a call, how do you take a decision? So that is where the thinking creatively and innovatively comes into picture. Okay. The next one was thinking critically and communicating critically. Now, as a manager, it is very important that the person is actually able to build a logical, coherent, and persuasive arguments. If this is and in the process, marshalling evidence in the support and distinguishing fact from opinion. Now, this was seen as a very useful skill, a very important skill to have, because that is what would distinguish one a manager from others. Now, understanding the role, responsibility, and purpose of business. Now, purpose of business was not just about that you have to look after the well-being of the shareholders, but you have to look at the larger purpose in among different stakeholders, and that is how do you understand that, and how do you bring that on the table. That is what this skill was all about. And lastly, we talk about understanding the limits of models and markets. Management education will teach you a lot of things, but it can't teach you everything. And therefore, it is important that you educate the students of management education look at the limits of models and say that, okay, while this is what this model tells me, is there something more that I need to think about, and probably then take a call on that. And that is what the whole topic of limits of models and markets is all about. There's a limit to that. It will help you in certain, but ultimately in the end, it is what you do with the your thinking, which is what we call as gut feeling, or what is called the sixth instinct. So those things also have a role to play, and as a manager, you need to have those skills also in place. You can't compromise on that. This is what was stated by Datar, Garvin, and Cullen, and this became part of what this I've taken from the textbook, the book called Rethinking MBA. Now, these are the skills which they envisage that really new manager needs to learn. Now, given these skills, how do you ensure that these skills are learned? And that is where the pedagogy, the pedagogy which has been used or is going to be used becomes important. And that is where probably when we talk about the pedagogy, these are my understanding of what is going to be there, what is going to be prominent in next few years. Okay, so now what I foresee is that the continued uses of cases and discussions in dialogue mode, that is something which is going to continue. It's not going to be something which is going to get away. What definitely we may see in future is that because the production cost is going to be low now, we are likely to see increase in multimedia cases. So a lot of cases which are which could not be multimedia cases, which could not be brought because of the high expense. Probably it will possible to bring that using the low cost of production of multimedia cases. So this is something which is likely to happen. I also see an increased role of business simulations. Now, simulations, as I talked earlier, actually allow you to check that when you take a decision, what is the outcome? And this type of understanding is something which I mean cases have a limitation in providing, and that's why we are going to see increased role of business simulation. I keep on tracking what's new, which is going on in different forums, and I see that there's a huge surge on use of business simulations in last 3 4. Maybe COVID accelerated that because people were sitting in the home and they wanted more than just guest lectures, and therefore this probably provided them the way of bringing that information. Now, third is what is called short-term industry projects. Now, students do this what is called the summer internship. This is a very common part of management pedagogy, that every institute asks its students to go and do a two-month summer internship project where they work with the organization and check that what they have learned in first year is actually good enough or not. Now, this is going beyond that. This is going beyond this summer internship project. This is about short-term industry project. Is about talking about that you you collaborate with the industry. So industry has a problem, and industry reaches out to you, and in the process, and you try to solve that problem. It's not a big problem. It's a small problem which probably you can handle, and industry doesn't have the probably bandwidth to take care of that. So it's a small problem which you can handle, and you try to solve that problem. While you solve this problem, in this what is called the industry short-term industry projects, there's also you also get understanding about how the business operates. How do you go about solving the problem? What are the things that you need to take care about when you consult with the organization? So a lot of positive learnings which happen because of this, and therefore my understanding is that this, and we have already seen this happening at IMT, that a lot of companies now come to us and say that can you ask our students to do this small project for us? We wanted to do it, but we don't have the bandwidth. So if you can ask somebody from the institute to actually go in this project for us. So it's a win-win for all the parties, and therefore it has seen a huge surge in last few years, moving away from very traditional to this type of very a new way of doing things is something which is happening. Now, after looking at the pedagogy, so we have looked at the skill, we have looked at the pedagogy. Let's look at what are the domains which are going to be important. And in domain, one is what is called stakeholder capitalism. Now, till 2007, 2008, the one thing which always was in prominence was what is called the shareholder capitalism. So the company or the corporation was always supposed to ensure that money is made for the shareholders. And that's a Milton Friedman way of looking at the things. But after 2008 crisis, people are saying that that really is not the right model, and probably we need to move to what is called stakeholder capitalism. So every stakeholder in the process is going to be involved in the process, not just the how do we build management structure, management systems which takes care of the requirement of each stakeholder, not just the shareholder. Then that's what stakeholder capitalism is all about. So all the stakeholders are taken care. Now, one big thing which is going up and everybody is talking about through different courses are the issues related to environment and sustainability. Now, organizations are actually, a lot of organizations are actually looking at this, that is something which is very important and not to be missed. And these schools are also looking at developing courses to take care of filling this gap, because if the organizations are going to look at it, then they would also need people who could actually marshal resources to cover this. So this would only happen with a good management education aspects covering it. So we have courses like sustainable marketing, we have courses like carbon finance, we have courses like carbon market, we have courses like how do you operate the carbon pricing. So all those courses are about environmental issues and sustainability. So they are going to come up in a very big manner, and they have already. I was looking at the course list of almost all the major B schools in US and Europe and India, and everywhere there are courses which actually deal with environmental issues and sustainability. Now, while everybody's talking about innovations, my bet is that what is called the strategic innovation or experimentation-led innovation is something which is going to be quite prominent. Now, experimentation is something which is a lot of companies actually try to do innovation, but innovation doesn't happen in one go, and therefore it requires thinking on how do you do innovations by using experiments. So you try out different things, and some of this is going to work. Nobody has a sure formula that what is going to work and what is not going to work. So you try out different things, and therefore, and from there pick up what has worked and try to build on that. And that is what experimentation-led innovation is all about. So depending on which part of which types of experiment have worked out very well, you channelize your energy, channelize your focus for those innovations, and that is how you so how do you conduct this now? It just as modern corporation came into being, and that required a way of looking at the management education. Similarly, in this case also, the students actually need to know that how do you do these experimentations, which can actually lead to I mean some type of innovations. Now, managing service organizations. So what we have always been talking about is services marketing. Now, but as we move from more from what is called the primary sector to tertiary sector, which is like more from the agriculture, or the secondary sector to tertiary sector, that is like factory setup to a service sector, it will be very important to understand that how do service organizations operate. So not just marketing services, but also about the issues related with the working of the service organization. And many of these, like IT companies, BPOs, and other KPOs, are like large scale service organizations, and they have come into prominence over ever since uh, the whole BPO outsourcing market boomed. So how do you manage this type of service organization is going to be one crucial topic going forward. Sports business. Sports is no longer just sports; it's a big business. If you don't believe me, look at the type of money that Jio and Hotstar have spent on procuring rights of IPL and the World Cup. Phenomenal money, and if there's so much money involved, they are going to I mean that will require a deeper understanding of the issues related with the sports business. So that's one topic which is going to be quite prominent going forward. Another is of diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion is a topic which is uh, everybody's talking about. How do you make the workplace more inclusive, more diverse, and therefore there are different ways, different strategies of doing so. This would require understanding of how as organization-wide policy, how you bring that into the table, and how do you build that into your overall way of doing things. That is what this diversity and inclusion topic is all about, and therefore this is also going to be quite prominent as we go forward. So these are my understanding of what are the domains which are going to be important, and this is based on my look at what the electives have been there in the curriculum for the top B schools in India and abroad, and mostly abroad, and too few from India. And believe that if you really want to be a global leader, you need to be sure on getting a good hang on these topics. Having looked at the domain, let's look at the last part, which is my understanding of what is the overall thing. Now, overall thing is that there's what we call as cluster model. So no B school will be in position to provide a wide range of things that the current set of students are demanding. Current set of students are demanding a lot of new different things, and therefore there's no way one B school can provide that, and therefore it will require partnering with other B schools, whether it is at national level or whether it's at international level. That is something which is going to be important, going to be if you're looking at choice of B schools, must look at this aspect, that how well connected that B school is in terms of the national and international partners, because that's going to be an important, very important element as you go forward. The second is this is a very important point: integration with learning tools, technology for content engagement to supplement social learning. Now, so answering to your question, Shreya, now this is the part which I want to talk about. That online medium is now is going to supplement. Now, what is social learning? First of all, let's look at what is social learning. Social learning is that when you come to a college, B school, there's a learning which happens, which is beyond the classroom learning. So in the class, you go interact with the instructor. Instructor tells you something, either case method or simulation or whichever way instructor follows. There's some learning which happens. Now, but there's a learning which happens beyond the classroom also, when you interact with your peers, interact with your friends in groups or outside the group, or some social extracurricular activities or social activity or some contests, campaigns. So there's a lot of learning which is happening, which is called social learning. And when COVID happened, this social learning sort of like stopped. Now, this is the reason why it's said that the social learning, the social learning is the reason why the legacy universities, legacy B schools will not close down. They will continue to be there because there's no way this type of social learning could be provided in the online mode. Now, given this background, what has also been seen is that uh, there's another way to supplement this social learning, which is by making available content which is available in online and one could actually consume as per demand. Now, this is very similar to the way you consume content on OTT as per on demand. Whatever you like, and in your free time, you get to watch it. Similarly, here also, we are talking about that there would be content which will be available in platforms, and really you can go and consume them as per requirement. Now, a couple of B schools have made this thing that they have tie-ups with Unacademy or Coursera, where you could do courses. You can identify a few courses, a certain number of courses. You can identify. You can do it in your free time. Now, for example, IMT also has a collaboration with Coursera, where the Coursera content is made available to all the students of IMT. So they can do certifications as per their requirement, and those certifications are valid, and Coursera provides batches for them to found them. Now the third prediction management education is that while you become a manager after doing an MBA, this is something which is not going to take you in long run. What is going to happen is what is called lifelong learning. So you are going to have a situation where it's a learning which is going to happen throughout your life. There's the whole thing of having a linear path of progression where you learn in one go and then you continue to work in another go is not going to be there. It's going to be a phase where you learn, you work, and then probably there will be some upgradation, some value addition which will happening. And this is exactly this thought that IMT has come up with the lifelong learning certification programs, where the option is there for the alumni that if you want, after some time, you can come and do these programs, which are provided at a very nominal cost to ensure that our alumni are always near what we call as the cutting edge information or the context or understanding of the topics. So this is what my understanding of predictions are. This is where I will stop and let me see if there are any questions. Shreya, can I stop sharing my screen, Shreya?
Yes, sir. We have a few questions. So,
Okay, I'll just stop share. Happy to take the questions now.
yes, sir. So there's a question of when you talked about strategy and innovation. So they've written that whenever I hear about strategy, the first thing that comes to my mind is Chanakya Niti. So like
Okay.
is that something that is still explored in like management institutes?
So Chanakya Niti is a certain way of doing things. When I'm talking about strategic innovations or when I'm talking about experimentation-led innovations, I'm talking about, see, given the way things are changing and evolving, nobody knows for sure that this is what is going to happen. For example, and I'll give a very specific example of how this works. Now, when Google wants to implement a certain color for its web pages, it also doesn't know which color is going to be used widely or appreciated widely. So what it does is that it uses different combination of colors at different and different with different people. So like 10,000 people are exposed to different one combination, 10,000 people are exposed to another set of combination, 10,000 people are exposed to another set of combination. And based on that, the decision is, and what is the feedback from the participant, where the most of the clicking has happened. Based on that, Google takes a call which one it wants to go ahead. So even a company like Google also doesn't know what is going to work for them, but because they have the resources to carry it out, so they carry out this experimentation, and based on that, they take a call that this is probably what needs to be done. That is how it works. So experimentation-led innovation is not about something which is fixed. It is about doing something about which you don't know, and therefore you have to do experiment to see that what works. And so there's no fixed rule as such, and you are making your decision based on what the results are showing up. That is what it is all about. I hope it provides some clarity.
Yes, sir, definitely. So one last thing that has been written. So someone wrote that your observation on cluster B schools is very interesting, but could you elaborate a little bit on how the partnering happens on like a national level, national scale?
Yeah, so I can give very solid example to talk about that. Now, for example, around 15 years ago, there was a partnership between IIM Calcutta, IIT Kharagpur, and IIT Kanpur. None of these are on its alone, and these are like premier institution of India. It's not that they are like any tier 3 or tier 4 institution in India. They are like premier institutions. IIM Calcutta, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Kanpur, among best in the technology space, best in the management space. But even they realize that they do not have enough expertise on. So they came up with a program which was I think 1.5 year program. I don't remember exactly. It was 1 year or 1.5 year, where they actually said that, okay, I have expertise in field A. IIT Kanpur said that I have expertise in field A. Kharagpur said that I have expertise in field B, and IIM Calcutta said I have expertise in field C. Can we do a program where the students would be exposed to certain aspects at my place, certain other aspects at place B, certain other aspects at place C? And that is how, when the student goes out in the market, the student has got the best of the three places. So that is how this type of cluster model works. So and I know a few other examples also which is there. So this is something which, again, it's like a idea whose time has come, because in the new education policy also, the NEP says that ideally you should have a large number of students. The idea of having large number of students is that there should be a wide variety of professions, and there's intermingling of students which is happening, and also intermingling of faculty members which is happening across different disciplines. Now, the private B schools probably may not be able to provide that. So how do you do that? How do you execute that? That execution will happen through this type of cluster models.
Yes, so that answers it very well. So I think we are at the end of the session. Um, So, as we conclude this insightful session, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to you, Professor Abhishek, for sharing your expertise and shedding light on the evolving trends in management. Your valuable insights have undoubtedly enriched our understanding, sir. To everyone present, thank you for being part of the IMT Connect series, and we look forward to welcoming you in future sessions. If your queries are left unanswered, you can mail them to us at admissions@imt.edu. And until next time, best wishes.
Thank you. Thank you, Shreya. Thank you
Thank
for
you, sir.
everybody.
Thank you.
Can I